year was 2007. I've been working as a mechanic already for like 3 to 4 years in Washington, D.C. Last thing on my mind was 911s. I was driving a 2001 Toyota Corolla, had an exhaust leak because I backed into a parking curb. I used to have to drive it around with the windows cracked. This was the year everything got real for me because I met my wife. I was living in my own apartment. I had my 2001 Corolla. Bills were being paid from my mechanic job. My wife and I got married a year later. Then 1 year later after that, we had our first child. But things got real quick. I wasn't thinking about creating a business, driving 911s, any of that stuff. I wasn't watching TikTok and YouTube, looking at kids with Lambos and Rolexes thinking, oh, I want to have those things. I was in survival mode, dude. I was wake up at 5 a.m. like I am today, go to work, get the paycheck. When my son was born, he had what's called a tracheatic esophageal fistula. He was in the NICU at the Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. on Michigan Avenue. My mechanic paycheck instantly felt like it wasn't enough. So I was like 23 years old with a newborn son that had a tracheatic esophageal fistula. Had my job. My wife was working at a giant grocery store. And no, at this time she was working at Harris Teeter. I remember she would have to work at night, so we'd have to wake my son up in the crib, which felt horrible. And then I have to drive up the road to get my wife from work because we had one car. I wasn't thinking about 911s, dude. I was thinking about how can I get a paycheck to pay for the bills for my family and to support my new family. So paycheck to paycheck, money's coming in. Little by little, it got tighter and tighter. We started shopping at the dollar store on Route 40 in Baltimore, Maryland, right by the Pep Boys that I worked at before I became a mechanic. So we would buy the cheese that had like 3 slices in it. I was overdrafting my bank account and getting hit with the $35 overdraft fee like every week. Hated it because they would take something out and then they would put all the other transactions after that one, so you get hit with 35. Sometimes I'd borrow money from my brother and try to put the money in the account before the overdraft fee hit so I could avoid it, but I'd wake up the next day with all the red 35s. I'm like, damn it! I'm like, oh man! And it would eat up my paycheck because my paycheck was getting direct deposited. I never went to college. I didn't know what business was or entrepreneurship. I told you I'm a hippo with a tie on. My back was against the wall. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Started a detailing thing first. I always had a big imagination. One time I had a virus on my laptop. I torrented malware bites. And my wife was like, oh my gosh, there's a virus on the laptop with malware bites. I'm like, I think they charge like $100 for that. I'm starting a computer repair business, and I put the listing on Google and Craigslist. They sent me the card in the mail so I could register my address with the business name. And then I got the card in the mail and I put the code that was on the piece of paper and it registered my business. So when someone typed in computer repair in the town I lived in, it popped up on the map, dude. I was so pumped about that. I was on one hand dreaming, like using my imagination, super excited like I was, like I said in the very first video, I was like a kid in high school that started the skateboarding brand Irish Skateboards. Like I just liked that creation and it was fun and like, oh, we own this, you know? And then on the other hand, it was also my back was against the wall and I was like, I needed more money. So it was kind of a combination of the two. I got most of my jobs in the beginning off Craigslist. I might have gotten 1 or 2 off Google, but mainly they were coming from Craigslist. So I started getting these jobs, dude, little by little, one every now and then. Then I got to a computer screen. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I also had some where I did the malware bites and the virus didn't get removed and they brought it back to me. The virus came back and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I go online and I look up computer repair around me. There was like a couple small places around me, and then there was this one a little bit further away in Owings Mills, Maryland. I'm gonna take the laptop there and talk to the guy. I get there, when I walk in, the guy's got laptops stacked from the floor to the ceiling, dude, with like a piece of tape on each one with the person's phone number or name. I'm like, holy cow, he had like all these people everywhere. We're very busy. He's like, we have a lot of work. I was like, oh, wow. And then I remember like I heard this thing one time where somebody said like, you have to sell the dream before somebody will believe you. Basically, like, if you wanted to work with a supplier in China and you're just starting a website, that you may want to sell them the idea that you have a pretty big network and you're going to sell a lot of products in the future and you're going to be a great customer, you know? So just for them to even want to work with you. So I said to him, I own a computer repair business, so much freaking work. Do you think there's any way we could work out a deal where like maybe like I bring you some work and you give me a little cut on the price and this way I can make something, you know? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, this is a really easy one. Just needs a virus removed. I'm just so busy. I don't got time to get them done. And I'm going to bring you tons of work. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And I was like, what do you charge to remove a virus? He's like, I charge $100. And that's what I charged. We worked out a thing where he was going to charge me $50, dude. And then I would charge my customer $100 and he would remove the viruses for me. But he only did it because he thought I'm just going to bring him like extra work, and it was just an extra easy thing for him. He had all these employees in there working on the computer, so he had the system and the processes set up to where he's like, yeah, just throw it in my little funnel. Like, this is just part of my business. I started driving him work all the time. I was bringing him stuff. I wasn't even attempting to fix it. Like, I would get the laptop and the screen would need to be replaced. But then it got a little messy. I would actually have jobs where the customers would write me or call me and say the computers weren't fixed, and he fixed it, and I already paid him. I was really learning like what a business is and customer service, and how you got to kind of eat dirt sometimes to keep the business afloat and make your customers happy. One thing led to another. Always trying to find something better, something easier. I was failing fast. It was hectic as hell. Like, I was driving from DC all the way back to Baltimore. Little child, you know, and like my wife was going to UMBC, I think at the time, and working at the grocery store. And I was freaking having to drive all the way to Owings Mills. Sometimes it'd be raining, and then I'd be in rush hour traffic, and I'd drive all the way back. And I wanted something easier. You didn't have to go anywhere. Use my imagination to come up with an idea, something I could do. Buddy Jason, he had a skateboard company when we were kids. He's on there posting like his brand new decks that he made, these skateboards. And I was like, dude, this is so awesome. And our buddy Vince Alcarise, Anthony Alcarise, his brother Vince Alcarise, he did the artwork on the boards. And I was like, these are so cool, man. He had like 5 decks, like five different like art for the decks, skateboard decks. And I was like, damn, dude. And I was looking at it, and I was like, and back in the day when I was a kid, I used to look at the CCS magazines, and like I said, I had the Irish skateboards when I was in high school. I just loved branding. I loved the brand. Like, even when I started the computer thing, I spent more time on the damn business card and like the logo than I did actually trying to get customers. I always enjoyed the branding and like the design. And growing up skateboarding, we would use Adobe Photoshop, which was torrented. I would get it on like the torrent websites, and I saved up, and I got a camera. I got a little high 8 camera with the little tapes. I don't know if you guys remember a Sony. And I had a fisheye lens and everything, and we were filming videos, but I was learning how to use Photoshop to make logos. I was learning how to use Adobe Premiere to edit and make videos. So I was like getting all these skills I didn't realize I was going to use in the future. So I see him with these boards, and I'm like, damn, dude, I want to create like something. I was like, I didn't want to create skateboards. One, I didn't want to like be competitive with my friend, and 2, I didn't really want to do decks. I wanted to create a clothing brand, and I didn't know at the time what I was even doing. I just was like, I want to create a clothing brand. So I go online and I find like a website. It was called Rush Order Tees. You can look it up. They still exist today. They're great. I would say use them to print shirts if you print in bulk. They do real silk screen. You know, they do other types, but they have good quality shirts. First, I made my wife a shirt, like a cheesy shirt with a flower, and I didn't have a name for the brand. So just to make her a shirt, just for fun, and to test out their like what their shirts were like, I just wrote quality clothing, like the word quality, just to make a fake brand. And I put like a Hawaiian looking flower on it. And then I was like, oh, I can make it QC. And then I made this like cheesy one for myself. That was like a Q. Oh damn, I don't know if I'm gonna be, if this truck's too high to get under here. Then I made a cheesy one for myself that was like a Q with a C in it. It kind of looked like a wave crashing. Because I was into like surfing and skating. I had a shortboard I bought off Craigslist, and I took it to Assateague. I couldn't even get up on it because I was too fat for it. How you doing?
Yeah, what can we get for you?
Can I have a bacon Gouda breakfast sandwich, please?
Okay.
And a venti iced Americano with cream and 2 stevia.
So how many stevia?
2, please.
Okay. Anything else for you?
And a cup of water.
All right. Anything else today?
That's all.
We'll see you up here.
Thank you. And yeah, we'd take this board all the way to Assateague. My son would sit on the beach with my wife, and they would watch me out there like almost drowning. No joke. I'm not exaggerating. Like out there in a storm trying to get up on the board. So I wanted to have the surfy brand. So I wanted to have a surf skate brand like Ruka, like RVCA. Hey, how's it going? My drink looks like a damn milkshake. You know what I do to mix it up? I blow into the straw. One time I did it and it blew the drink all over me. But I just like lightly blow so it blows bubbles. You know when you're a kid and you blow bubbles in your drink? I do that to mix it up. Alright, so let's hit the streets of this F-250. Oh! This thing's quick, dude, I'm telling you. So I wanted to have a surfy brand, so I made these 2 t-shirts, okay? We get the t-shirts in the mail. She actually loved her shirt. She's like, I love this shirt. And it was like a girl's shirt, like this, like the shape of a girl's shirt. And then I'm like, God, I don't like the name Quality. I was like, I didn't really like the name Quality, so I was like, I gotta think of a name. And I always loved acronyms. Like I was saying, like RUCA, it looks like RVCA or something, like one of the surfing brands. So I was like, oh, I could name it QLTY with like a period. So I named it QLTY, quality. Later on, I was telling everybody it stood for question limits, test yourself. But I just made that up on the fly. So then I went on Rush Order Tees. I made one shirt style. It was called Quality Crook. If you know when you skateboard what a crook grind is, where you're like crooked on the, when you do a crook grind. Oh, sorry, coffee went down weird. The crook grind's like when you're like sideways grinding on the front truck. So I named it Quality Crook, and I made the logo like crooked on the shirt, just like going diagonal down the shirt. I don't know what I was thinking when I made it. I got like 10 colors or 5 colors, I can't remember. I'm posting pictures on the screen. You can see what I'm talking about. Then, at the time, I was a diesel mechanic, and we were working at a place in Washington, D.C. called Johnson & Towers. I worked there for 16 years. Well, that place became Johnson Truck Center later on. It became a Freightliner dealership. But that place, we were responsible for Allison Detroit Diesel. Everything Allison Detroit Diesel. So I had to go and do all the campaigns for Allison, for the hybrid buses, the transit buses in Washington, D.C., the metro buses. So if anybody is watching this and they live in the DMV and you know the D.C. metro bus, and EMOC, Montgomery County buses, I've been on top of every single one of those buses. When I say every one, I'm not exaggerating. We had to do every single bus that was a hybrid. All of them, even the articulating ones. Go to WMATA, we go to all the different locations. I go to Northwest, we go to the Bethesda one, we would go to Southeast, every single one, Capitol Heights, every single WMATA location I was there. And we would go there and we'd work on the buses there. They'd bring in the ones we needed to do. We'd do like 2 or 3 of them. We would change the dual power inverter module. It's called the DPIM. It's on top of the bus. I'll try to find a picture, throw a picture on the screen of me. I had long hair, like I said, I was trying to be a surfer. I think I even had a shirt on that said something about surfing on it. And I was on top of the bus in the picture, I think. Me and my buddy Mike Green, we worked together. We worked Saturdays. Every Saturday we worked like 8 to 10 hours. We were getting fat paychecks, dude. We were getting like $1,100 a week. Back then I was like rolling in the money. I was like, this is awesome. I love this. So we were on top of those buses. But what I'm getting at is this. Every single location had a different vibe. I might be in Southwest or Southeast, or I might be in Capitol Heights, or wherever I was, it had a different vibe. So some of the texts, I'd be like, if wherever I was, I changed the story around the brand. Like I'd be like, dude, check out this street brand. I was trying to make up acronyms. That's how I came up with question limits, test yourself. I was trying to make up other acronyms to try to sell the shirts. I was selling the shirts out of the trunk of the car because I would leave my house and drive my 2001 Corolla to meet Mike. And Mike would have the truck with the DPIMs and everything. So I had my car with the shirts in the trunk. So I was just hustling those shirts, dude, $25 a pop, and I was paying like $7 to buy them. I sold through every one of those shirts. Then I got them in consignment in a few skate shops too. I don't know if they ever sold, but I liked seeing them hanging in the shop. I remember just feeling good, like walking in and just being like I almost wanted to tell a friend, like, go up to AWOL on Frederick Road in Catonsville, and just go in there and look at the clothes. And I don't tell him, and he sees it and he's like, damn, dude. I'm like, yeah, boy. I'm in this shop, like, it's cool. It's like fun. Like when you're a kid, you go and walk Kmart. When you're a little kid, like, or you go in Sears or Blockbuster, and you go in there and you see a product hanging on the wall. Like when you're a child, you don't know how that product got in there. It's so cool when you're older and you can get a product. This world you live in is all made up of things that people thought up from their minds. Like what you're living in right now is other people's thoughts, Why not throw your own up in the mix and get some of your stuff up on a shelf somewhere? You can. You just take the steps, So it started with the t-shirts. Then I quickly realized this sucks, dude. I didn't pay extra to have the shirts wrapped in plastic. So constantly pulling them in and out of the cardboard box. They were getting like fuzzies on them and they looked dusty and they started getting kind of grimy. I had to fold. I didn't have a shirt folder or anything, so I was just putting them back in the box, trying to fold them myself. And I just started realizing shirts kind of suck. I had to dig through the box. The guy's like wanted to buy a shirt, and I'm like, damn, all I got left is 10 smalls and a medium. And he wanted an extra large, I had to figure out how many I needed in each size and whatnot. And they're bulky. I didn't like shipping them. I didn't ship any of those. I had a website. I'll throw it on the screen, but I didn't ship many. Everything was kind of just in-person selling. I've been married for almost 19 years. I have 4 kids. And I'm trying to remember all this stuff because I was just thinking, this was a year after I got married. So this was 18 years ago. You know what I mean? So then I put together a little skateboard team. So I went to a bunch of different skate parks, and I just talked to people, and I knew people too that skated, and I just got some kids that were good, like up-and-coming skaters that were good. We used to skate Lansdowne. If anybody remembers Lansdowne Bowl, we grew up skating Lansdowne as kids. Then my parents were divorced, and my dad lived out near the city. My mom lived in the county, and every other weekend we would go to the city. My dad, when we were little kids, took us to Lansdowne, and then as we got older, we started skating Lansdowne all the time. So I met some kids, and I made a little team. If you go on YouTube still to this day and you type in QLTY, like QLTY period, in DC, or spent the day in DC, there's some like cheesy videos, dude, on there. Some really cheesy videos from like back then, back in those days with the shirts. We had another shirt too. It said DBU. It had like a backwards D, and it stood for don't back up. Like don't go backwards, move forward. I liked it because my brother and I were all into UFC, so we were like, I was applying it to like life, but also just whatever in life, like don't back up. I just liked it. So like it said DBU, and then it had the QLTY in the D. They were cheesy, you know, but I was hustling. I was trying to do something. And at the time, like I said, it was always about the creation of a brand. It was always the just like now with YouTube, I like making the videos because I like to create stuff. I like to just create it and put it out there in the world, you know. Like I said, like a kid seeing something hanging on a shelf in a store. Because if you really think about it, my wife could have been like, go get another job. We need more money. We don't need you to be fiddling and tinkering around with kitty shirts in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Like she could have been like, what are you doing? Like, man up and go go work part-time as a mechanic somewhere else, you know, which I was doing too. I haven't mentioned that yet. I was doing that. I was servicing these trucks across from, which is now the LA Fitness in Lansdowne, across the street, what is an industrial park. It used to not really be developed. It was a dirt road back then. And I would go after work and I would work up in there. And I was servicing AT transmissions, if anyone ever remembers those, Allison AT 545s. Yeah, so I realized pretty quickly that I didn't really want to do shirts. And then I saw my wife was up to something. And I'm like, before all this though, I did have a detailing thing, car detailing in high school I didn't bring up. But I'm looking at my wife, dude. She's sitting in bed and she's starting to make something, and I'm like, what is that? And I'm gonna talk about this in the next video, because this is when I started. This is when we went from like playing around to things got real. And I'm going to talk about this in the next video. And if you guys want to know where this all goes, stick with these videos, because something so small, small as a mustard seed, turned into something big. It turned into something big. So just stick with these videos, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Appreciate you guys.